All right, we are at step 5, pencil techniques, and what I'm going to do right now is teach you all the different ways to use these graphite pencils. So you need to, in your sketchbook, do this while I am showing it to you. So this is a follow along video. So the first technique for using your pencils is called directional shading. So directional shading you will use for the entire drawing. It's not just for like one spot or another. I'm going to switch pencils here so it's really dark. So directional shading means shading in the direction of the object that you're trying to fill. So you've got our circle here. We tried to make that a sphere in the last step. Do you think that it's going to look really 3D if you shade back and forth like this? Hopefully you answered no. The answer is no. To make this start to look really 3D, you want to use a kind of a curved line. So this is where the idea of the directional shadings come into play. So I'm shading in the direction of the object. I want to make this look 3D. So I'm going to use this curved line. I'm going to vary the pressure that I'm using on the pencils. Sometimes I'm going to push down really light. In other spots I'm going to push down really hard. Okay? That's one of the tricks for shading, is making sure that you vary the pressure on your pencil and pay attention to what it is that you're trying to fill in to make it look 3D. Okay, so this is starting, so I'm going to put a little highlight here. So I'm just not going to finish this right now, but if I was to keep going, I would do a cast shadow. All right, and I would work a little bit more on this highlight. Okay, directional shading also you could do a tree. So let's say you had a tree. This is a horrible tree, but let's pretend it's awesome. Okay, so I've got my tree here. Which way should I shade my tree? Should I shade up and down like this? Or do you think I should shade in the round where it sort of is a curve so it looks more round? Well, what I'm going to say is both answers are correct, and it's just going to depend on where your light source is coming from, which will depend on which way you want to shade. Okay, if I can teach you nothing else but directional shading, your drawing will be so awesome. Okay, so what about a sky? Let's pretend. So I've got a sky here. Would it make sense to shade up and down like this? Vertical? No, it makes more sense to shade horizontally, okay, to show the sky. Keeping our pencil lines close together, of course. All right, second technique I want you to try is using the side of the pencil versus the tip of the pencil. So when you use the side of the pencil, you get more of a rough kind of texture. This might be awesome for some of the things that you're filling in. Other times we use the tip of the pencil if we want a really smooth, clean finish. You can see how it's a little bit more shiny, kind of filled in. Third technique is irregular shading. Irregular shading, I tend to use the side of the pencil as well. But then every once in a while you kind of tip the pencil up. So you're using the tip or the point of the pencil a little bit more. This might be effective if you are thinking about if your image is a landscape, maybe it's water. You want to show like ocean or some waves, or if you've got grasses in the distance, maybe it's some kind of landscape, or you've got wood grain, okay? So this one's called irregular. It's where you're not applying the same amount of pressure on the pencil for the whole thing. All right, and then we've got circular shading. So circular shading means you're using little tiny circles to kind of fill in an area to create texture. If you go very uniform or the same size circles, it's going to kind of look like steel wool. It'll sort of look like that. Or you can go irregular, meaning different size circles, and you can kind of create sort of a texture. I'm going to make like a little, you can make almost like a little tree doing this technique. It doesn't necessarily have to be circles. Just using circles, I made like a little evergreen tree there. Okay, pretend this is the ground. You can use X's, almost like cross-hatching or scoring from clay, okay, to fill in areas. So this technique would be if you wanted to add texture. So would irregular, so would side versus tip. But every single thing you need to be thinking about this directional shading. That's the most important part, okay? You're trying to shade to create form, which is 3D. Remember, form is fat, shape is flat. So we're trying to take our flat shapes and make them three-dimensional by using directional shading, using the pencils in different ways, and using different pressure on the pencils. Okay? I would like to see your pencil techniques in your sketchbook. Come see me, you'll get a signature, and you can move on to the next step, which is 6, which is the most important, which is shading.